stop me if you think I am crazy here. LeBron James literally cannot help himself. The King has chewed through 3 coaches in a span of 4 years. For a while now, rumors have flown around about him disrespecting management, but no, one had the guts to call him out to his face. Until now. And what was just said is absolutely wild. The coach who finally pushed back, JJ Redick, definitely did not sign up for this drama. When the Lakers hired him as head coach in June 2024, he walked straight into the most scrutinized gig in professional sports, a role that spits out coaching talent fast enough to make even the most seasoned NBA legends think twice before taking the check. But Redick, fresh off a broadcasting run where he built a brand on Sharp, basketball logic, and zero filter, thought he was the guy to finally solve the puzzle of coaching the most dominant force the league has ever seen. That force, obviously, is LeBron James. A player who has spent over 2 decades acting not just as a star, but as the architect, the front office influencer, and depending on who you ask, the shadow GM of every team he joins. If you are loving this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button. Since Redick grabbed the clipboard, it has been a slow motion car crash between a coach who refuses to stay quiet and a player who has been an institution unto himself for 23 seasons. The cracks turned into canyons in December 2025 when James returned from a foot injury that kept him out for the season opener. In a post-game presser that instantly went viral across the basketball world, Redick admitted the Lakers haven't looked organized offensively since James got back in the lineup, blaming random possessions for killing their half-court flow. That comment alone should have raised eyebrows. A rookie head coach publicly identifying his most decorated player as the source of the mess, that is bold. But Redick went way further. He told the media that the next practice was going to be ugly and the film session before it would be uncomfortable, delivering the kind of blunt promise that coaches in LeBron's orbit are usually too cautious, too political, or frankly, too afraid for their paychecks to make. And then he dropped a line that landed like a grenade in Lakers land. I am not doing another 53 games like this. That statement carried the weight of a man who had hit his limit and was drawing a hard line in the sand for the entire organization to. Redick wasn't just venting after a bad loss. He was signaling that the status quo, where the team's identity bends and breaks to fit a 41-year-old's rhythms, was officially over. He didn't care about the consequences. He took partial blame, saying, "That is on me." But if you are paying attention, you heard the real message. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. The Lakers' identity crisis wasn't just on the coach. It was a structural nightmare created by a player whose gravitational pull warps every system, every scheme, and every teammate's role around him. What made Redick's honesty so shocking was his willingness to point out the elephant that has been sitting in the room since 2018. The sheer difficulty of actually coaching LeBron James. In a moment that felt totally raw, Redick admitted, not everybody can approach LeBron and think they can instruct him on anything. That is not just respect. That is control. Read that again. A sitting NBA head coach went on record saying that managing his MVP isn't merely a matter of basketball IQ, tactical authority, or drawing up the best plays. It is about navigating a power dynamic where the player holds the leverage, the public narrative, and the clout to determine whether a coach keeps his job or joins the unemployment line. I think he has done it all season. From a coaching perspective, he has done everything we asked. Yet, even as Redick praised James's professionalism to the cameras, calling his commitment in year 23 the most remarkable thing about his career, the tension between playing nice for the press and the private reality was obvious to anyone reading between the lines. The crazy part is how much he still cares in his 23rd year with all those accolades. So it is not like he is checking out. He is hunting for another one. But that praise, however genuine, has always lived right next to a far more revealing truth. In what was framed as a quick joke after a win, Redick compared James to Greg Maddux, the baseball legend whose mastery meant he could just override his. Think of a legendary pitcher waving off his catcher's signs with absolute impunity simply because he sees the game on a higher plane. That comparison wasn't thrown out as an insult, it was a badge of honor. James, much like Greg Maddux, commands a level of mastery where he can essentially scrap the play, designed in the huddle, and execute whatever he deems the superior move. However, Buried within that praise lies a harsh coaching reality that would shatter most locker rooms. Sometimes your superstar tells you to get lost. And the most frustrating part, he is usually spot on. Redick admitted it point blank, noting that James tells him to F off, and the guy is actually right. This isn't a working dynamic based on the traditional chain of command. It is a nightly, high-stakes negotiation between a coach demanding structural discipline and a legend who has spent 23 years defining the structure itself. But before we dig deeper, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more Insider Lakers updates. The analytics highlighted what Redick's comments only suggested. In the 13 games following his return, James posted a minus 4.5 box plus minus, meaning the Lakers were statistically inferior with him on the floor compared to when he sat. It was a mathematical negative, as the data experts described it. For an icon of James's caliber, those metrics signify something far more alarming than a temporary cold streak or a rustic adjustment phase. They point to a fundamental disconnect between what this roster requires to secure victories and what its franchise centerpiece can actually deliver at this twilight stage of his career. Redick has also been forced to maneuver through the chaotic media circus that orbits James 24/7. When a cryptic social media post from LeBron sent the sports world into a tailspin of trade rumors and retirement theories, Redick shut down the noise with his trademark bluntness, essentially calling the reporters oblivious and clarifying it was just a watch advertisement. When pressed about James missing action for personal matters, Redick didn't elaborate, offering a curt no regarding a return timeline. These weren't the diplomatic answers of a coach feeling safe. These were the sharp retorts of a man who calculated that brutal honesty, even if it made people squirm, was the only route to maintain respect in an arena where credibility is an endangered species. If you appreciate that kind of raw honesty, drop a like on this video right now. Reports later emerged that James exploded behind closed doors following Redick's public airing of these uncomfortable facts. Sources described heated confrontations and a locker room atmosphere thick with tension, with the staff bracing for the aftershocks of stating what everyone else was too afraid to whisper. The coach had done the one thing his predecessors studiously avoided. He took the quiet part and blasted it over the PA system. When you look at the standings, sitting 12 games over 500 heading into the break seems solid. I believe he had, 10 games with Reeves? Davis and James all active? That record, 12 games above 500 at the All-Star break, should have been a reason to celebrate, especially considering the limited runway Redick had with a healthy lineup. Yet, his tone in that press conference wasn't one of a man touting incremental gains. It was the demeanor of someone who realized the scoreboard only revealed half the narrative, while the other half was being scripted in practice facilities, film sessions, and private meetings where hard truths were finally, for the first time in the LeBron era, being delivered without a filter. A history written in wreckage. JJ Redick isn't the first Lakers boss to find himself trying to solve the impossible geometry of coaching LeBron James. He is merely the latest chapter in a long line of men who found out, usually the hard way, that working alongside the king exacts a toll that no coaching resume, tactical genius, or championship ring can fully inoculate you against. Perhaps nobody understands that price more intimately than Darvin Ham. Ham touched down in Los Angeles in 2022 with legitimate credentials and a defensive mindset the franchise desperately craved after the train wreck of the Westbrook experiment. In his rookie season, he took a squad that had completely whiffed on the postseason and marched them all the way to the Western Conference Finals, snagging an in-season tournament banner along the route. By any objective standard, it was a stellar debut, the kind of performance that should have bought him years of organizational trust and runway. Yet, by May 2024, he was out on the street. The massive canyon between those two outcomes is where the LeBron effect lives, breathes, and destroys careers. The public cracks in the foundation between Ham and James were unmissable for anyone paying attention. During a 2024 playoff battle against the Denver Nuggets, cameras caught James berating Ham and the staff from the sideline, visibly livid that Ham had chosen not to challenge an out-of-bounds ruling. The footage didn't just show a player who disagreed with a call. It displayed a player overruling his boss in real time, right in front of teammates who were watching. The hierarchy crumble on national television. And let's be real, the audience was taking notes. It wasn't the first flare-up during Ham's tenure. Earlier in the 2023-24 campaign, James had bristled openly at Ham's rotation decisions. It began with a cap on his minutes, a deliberate restriction meant to keep the King fresh at age 39. But cameras caught LeBron fuming about the new protocols, snapping. I know y'all have got me on old man time percentage. I hate this already. It wasn't just a complaint. It was a statement of power. The message was clear. I decide my playing time. Not you, not the doctors, nobody. Before we dig deeper, smash that like button if you think superstars should make their own rules. Once the dust settled on the season, the league started flooding in. Sources claimed the locker room had completely turned on Darvin Ham. Insiders say the disconnect was total. A brutal look for a coach who should have had way more job security after his first-year success. The gripes were specific. Weird rotation choices, late-game strategies that caused more confusion than solutions, and a total evaporation of respect from the squad. But hold on, because the critics noticed a massive contradiction here. Ham had literally dragged a non-playoff roster all the way to the Western Conference Finals in his rookie year. Despite that, Bron and Anthony Davis reportedly pointed the finger at him when things went south. Analysts are calling this the accountability gap, a recurring theme in the LeBron era. Fast forward to November 2025. Now an assistant with the Bucks, Ham finally took the gloves off in an interview, speaking without the usual PR filter. He refused to be the fall guy for a failure that had plenty of blame to go around, pointing out that his superstar duo was actually healthy for most of his run. He bluntly called his firing crazy, arguing that a conference finals run and an in-season tournament ring would usually get a coach a massive extension anywhere else in the league. He admitted there were hurdles like injuries to defensive stoppers such as Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, which messed up his lineups. However, he hinted heavily that the real pressure came from the top, specifically from number 23. It played a major role in him getting the boot. In his exit comments, Ham took what sounded like subtle jabs at the franchise's hierarchy, with many insiders reading between the lines. LeBron runs the show, not the coach. If you are enjoying this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a verified update. This isn't a new script. Remember Frank Vogel? The man delivered banner number 17 in the Orlando bubble back in 2020, a feat that should have made him untouchable. Yet just 2 years later, Vogel was dealing with the exact same headache during his final lap. He watched the team chemistry disintegrate over roster moves he didn't even make, but he was the one expected to make it work. The common thread connecting Vogel, Ham, and now Redick isn't that they can't coach. It is that they all ran into the same brutal reality. Coaching LeBron James means tossing out the traditional playbook. The coach isn't the boss. And the second you try to act like one, your time is ticking. This tension isn't just behind closed doors. It spills out right in front of the cameras. We have seen LeBron shut down post-game pressers multiple times across different teams. When he decides a line of questioning is repetitive, annoying, or beneath him, he just pulls the plug. I don't understand what is going on in the replay center, to be honest. That was James during the 2024 playoffs, fuming after the Lakers blew a 20-point lead to Denver on a Jamal Murray buzzer beater. He wasn't just critiquing the refs, he was absolutely seething at the refs' entire system. His tone shifted from basketball analysis to pure rage, showing a man who isn't used to being told no. He shouted, "D'Lo clearly gets hit in the face on a drive." He brought up a reversed call on D'Angelo Russell, building up to one of those signature public outbursts we have come to expect when things go wrong. What the hell do we have a replay center for if it is going to go like this? It doesn't make sense to me. He compared it to a botched call in a Sixers-Knicks game before literally dropping the mic and storming off. It wasn't his first walk-off either. Remember Game 1 of the 2018 Finals? The J.R. Smith clock disaster? James got asked about Smith's mental error twice. His response? He wordlessly put on his sunglasses, grabbed his bag, told the reporter to be better tomorrow, and left the building. Same energy after the Lakers got eliminated in 2024. When asked if that was his final game in the purple and gold, he flatly said, "I am not going to answer that," and walked out without another word. Was that the final curtain call? When pressed on whether he had just worn the Lakers uniform for the last time, James shut it down cold. "I'm not going to answer that," he said with zero emotion, storming out before anyone could get another word in. Is the king reigning over an empty court? Enes Kanter Freedom just dropped a massive bombshell, claiming that absolutely no one wants to suit up alongside LeBron James, pointing to how the superstar allegedly threw Russell Westbrook under the bus for that disastrous 2021-22 season. But the criticism doesn't stop there. Former champs Richard Jefferson and Channing Frye didn't hold back either, describing the mental toll of playing with James as psychological warfare. They painted a picture where the pressure is suffocating simply because his standards aren't just high, they're extraterrestrial. You are trying to climb a hill while this man is trying to colonize Mars. Then you have Stephen A. Smith taking it a step further, labeling James a straight-up nightmare for front office executives. He highlighted a toxic cycle of constant whining about roster help, accusations of stat padding over winning, and a serious inability to close out games in clutch moments despite holding all the cards when it comes to trade demands. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the Lakers' chaos, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more updates. Reports from anonymous assistant coaches are calling the Lakers bench a career-killing gig, and it is not just because of the spotlight on James, but because his massive shadow turns every single crack in the organization into a Grand Canyon of dysfunction. The empire is crumbling from the inside out. The drama between JJ Redick and LeBron. James is just the smoke. The fire is burning much deeper. We are talking about fractures that go way beyond the coaching staff, cracking the very foundation of the ownership suite, and exposing issues that have been rotting away ever since the confetti settled on the 2020 bubble championship. At the eye of this storm sits Jeanie Buss. Following the staggering $10 billion sale to billionaire Mark Walter in June 2025, her role has shifted, and the picture painted of her relationship with the king is one of total disintegration. It is a level of beef that no amount of PR spin can fix. Sources say the bad blood started flowing the second James touched down in LA back in 2018. Jeanie reportedly hated the media narrative that painted James as the savior, rescuing a drowning franchise, feeling it completely erased her hard work in steering the ship through the painful rebuild years. Before we get into the trade rumors, hit that notification bell so you never miss a scoop. That frustration went nuclear after the 2020 title. Jeanie felt Bron took all the credit, while the front office got zero love for building the team. For an owner whose last name is literally synonymous with purple and gold, being treated like an extra in the LeBron James movie was a wound that refused to heal. Then came the Russell Westbrook disaster. That was the spark that turned simmering resentment into an uncontrolled fire. Jeanie was privately furious at what she saw as LeBron's total lack of accountability when that trade blew up in their faces. James had pushed hard for the Westbrook deal, but when the ship sank and the Lakers missed the playoffs entirely, he acted like a passenger, shifting the blame to everyone else. This pattern of demanding moves and then dodging responsibility led Jeanie to seriously consider not extending James's contract in 2022. But here is the shocker. She reportedly explored trading him, specifically looking at a deal with their crosstown rivals, the LA Clippers. We are talking about the kind of betrayal that would have nuked the Lakers' public image and destroyed fan loyalty in seconds. Jeanie was also fed up with the massive ego and the stranglehold that James and his agency, Clutch Sports, held over roster decisions. Another major source of friction was Jeanie, feeling zero gratitude from the James camp after the Lakers used a draft pick on his son, Bronny James. In the 2024 NBA draft, many saw that move as a favor to the king rather than a smart basketball play. It inserted messy family dynamics into a pro environment, creating a nightmare for the coaching staff, who had to navigate the delicate task of evaluating a player whose dad basically runs the place. Jeanie also hated bowing down to James's contract demands, including a no-trade clause she gave up just to avoid a public war with the superstar. When ESPN leaked these details, people called it a hit piece, noting that Jeanie seemed to hate the fact that James had become the team's entire identity rather than just an employee. So how did the King respond? In true LeBron fashion. After a loss to the Clippers on January 22nd, 2026, he brushed it off completely. I don't care how somebody feels about me, it doesn't bother me. He claimed he is just focused on hoops amidst the struggle. It is a classic deflection from a player who has spent his entire career handling off-court drama. With the same ease, he handles a warm-up drill. He handles the media like he handles a double team, acknowledging the pressure exists while acting like he's totally untouchable. Jeanie Buss, for her part, went into damage control, issuing a statement to The Athletic trying to walk back the explosive nature of the leaks. Her stance? It's simply not right, considering all the incredible work LeBron has put in for the Lakers to drag him into her messy family drama. The narrative that his efforts weren't appreciated is false, she claims, and completely unfair to the King. She followed that up with a digital olive branch, double tapping a like on an Instagram tribute to James, and insiders tell us that Bron and his agent, Rich Paul, are set to sit down with Buss to squash the beef. But this tension is fueled by the Buss family's own civil war, a conflict that drove the massive $10 billion sale of the majority stake to Mark Walter. That deal has completely entangled James in what reports call a soap opera, giving the impression that the Lakers' meltdown isn't just about hoops anymore, it's an institution unraveling at the seams. If you're loving this deep dive, make sure to smash that like button right now. But clearing the air in the boardroom doesn't wipe the slate clean. And at this stage of the 2025-26 season, the tape reveals an uncomfortable truth. Father Time is undefeated. At 41 years old, analysts are seeing a LeBron who struggles with heavy ball pressure, showing shaky confidence in his handle without a screen or a clear runway to the rim. We're seeing costly turnovers pile up against elite defenders like Chris Dunn, Kawhi Leonard, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, making him what some scouts are now calling a liability in certain matchups, a word that would have been blasphemy in connection with James just 3 seasons ago. Throw in the physical breakdown, nerve issues, and sciatica, and his availability is taking a hit, jeopardizing the Lakers' playoff push and complicating the awards race. Plus, James's history of leaving franchises in the dark, ghosting Cleveland and Miami without warning, has the front office terrified that this season could be the series finale. The anxiety is palpable, yet they're paralyzed, unable to plan a future around a superstar who won't commit to a timeline. Coach Redick admitted that juggling James alongside Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves is a tactical nightmare, a nightly grind of balancing the ego of a legend with the rigid structural discipline the team needs to survive against elite competition. Redick put it bluntly, it's the micro day-to-day stuff. That admission that the daily minutia burns him out in a way playing never did is the quiet confession of a coach who knows that championship rings are won in the details, the very details, that get ignored when a star's preferences trump the system. Then there's the macro view, the big picture. And for the purple and gold, it's ugly. 3 coaches in 4 years have been chewed up by this exact unsolvable friction. Vogel brought home a banner and got fired. Ham made the conference finals and got the boot. Now Redick, mere months into the gig, is already saying out loud what his predecessors only dared to whisper in dark corners. And naturally, Skip Bayless wasn't going to let a LeBron controversy slide. He jumped on the narrative, dissecting James's recent podcast comments about top draft prospect Cooper Flagg. Skip didn't hold back, ripping into what he sees as LeBron's fragile ego. He's still Cooper Flagg, a two-way star, Bayless argued, claiming LeBron veered into sorry insecurity. His point? Even when praising the presumptive number 1 pick, James couldn't resist making it about his own origin. Story how he overcame the odds on a weak team, unlike Flagg, who's walking into a Hall of Fame situation in Dallas with Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, and head coach Jason Kidd. Skip's message was brutal. You had an amazing ride. Just be grateful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more fiery takes like this. Whether if you think Bayless is spot on or just chasing clout, the core issue hits home with everything happening inside the Lakers facility. James moves with an unshakable belief that the world must bend to his will, not the other way around. Coaches, owners, teammates, and GMs have all tried to resist that gravitational pull at some point in his historic career. Most got launched into deep space, their careers forever changed, just for trying to stand their ground. The 2025-26 Lakers are stuck hovering at the 500 mark, hitting the All-Star break with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Redick's defensive tweaks after that signature win over Dallas gave us a tease of what this squad could be if discipline finally conquers personality. But with the trade deadline ticking closer and James's future hanging in the balance, His future in Los Angeles is still a total mystery, but here is the spicy part. The coaching staff is finally showing some teeth. Before we get into this power struggle, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss a beat on this developing story. For what feels like the first time in the Kings' reign, the staff is actually challenging the franchise's most powerful figure, and they are doing it loud and clear for the world to see. That brings us to the defining dilemma of this Lakers season. It is not just about whether the organization can figure out a way to work with LeBron James. The real question we should be asking is whether anyone ever truly could. Thanks for hanging out with us. Click those cards on your screen for more hot takes and updates.